sweet. Hi, sweetie. There you go. You look like you got a nice jersey. Okay, you ready to go?
Happy Friday, Baylor College of Medicine and friends of Baylor. Well, today I like to look over the politics of COVID because I found it very amusing that we lost two prime ministers. It's funny when, we lost old Boris, party on Boris, and also Prime Minister Suga over the way they handled COVID. If you look at when they were actually handling it poorly, cases were very low. There was a lockdown in London, in England, but unfortunately, Boris was throwing parties. And Suga got in trouble because they had a pretty significant lockdown except for the Olympics. So the Olympics showed up and all of a sudden they had all these cases. What's fascinating to me is, if you look at what's going on now, Japan is in the middle of a surge because the new prime minister decided, well, we got to get the economy going. So Suga got in trouble for letting some people in, and the new guy is okay because now there's massive cases numbers. I don't know. And Johnson, he was just partying too much during lockdowns. Anyway, it's interesting to see how you handled COVID in your country ended up having a big impact on the politics of their own leadership. Good news mostly in the United States. Cases are down, as you can see. The other thing is admissions are down. So admissions are down across all different age groups. In fact, even 70 and older are coming down. So this is all very good news. You can see 70 and older and generally coming down. The trends for death are finally going in the right direction. So mortality is finally beginning to slow down. And in Texas, our friends in Dimmitt County are now once again classified as a low-risk community. In Harris County, we're down from high risk to moderate risk with only 163 cases per 100,000 and almost under 10 admissions per 100,000. We're at 11, but that's all good. If you look at the Texas Medical Center data, we're down to under 10% positivity for the first time in many, many months. Hospitalizations are coming down, and of course the best news, we've talked a lot about this, is the wastewater continues to go down. As long as that's going down, we know that for the next 2 weeks we'll continue to go down. So one of the really fascinating things right now is that if you look at the preponderance of variants, BA4/5 now is 99.8% of all variants. There has not been in this pandemic a variant that is so completely dominated. And that's actually kind of good news because the longer we have the same variant in place, the more likely we are to get long-standing immunity in the community and maybe even reach herd immunity. So you can see each variant has had each variant has had a longer period of time when it's dominated. Alpha was around for a few months, Delta was 7 months, and now with Omicron we're almost up to 10 months. That means I hope it stays that way, because as long as it stays that way, we can anticipate that people who've been either infected or vaccinated are going to have some immunity to that particular variant. So, I got a lot of questions from last week's video that turns out there were several papers that came out this week that answered them. One was, this is a recurring question, I got vaccinated but then infected, so how protected am I? And so there's a great paper actually in the New England Journal looking at Portugal. Now, Portugal was one of the countries that almost 98% of their country got vaccinated. So before 2022, almost everyone was vaccinated. But they had really good follow-up data. And what they did is they looked at what your chance was of getting a BA5 infection had you been exposed or infected with one of the other variants. So these are all vaccinated people who then were infected. This is the very question I got. Vaccinated and infected with a particular strain, and then they looked at how is your protection against the BA5, the current strain. And it's really interesting. The shaded areas are the time period when over 90% of the variants were this particular variant. So it was the Wuhan original variant, Alpha, Delta, the BA1 or 2 variant, and then BA5. And what it shows very clearly is that, with each new variant, it's more closely related to BA5, you're more protected. So if you were vaccinated and infected with the Wuhan variant, well, basically you had only 50% protection. If you were infected with the Delta variant, you had 60% protection. And if you were infected with the BA1 or 2 variant, you had 75% protection. So that means These, the more closely related, are giving better protection against the current variant. Now, that I assume, we don't know yet, but assume that you got infected with BA.5, which had been this summer, like I did, July 4th weekend, I got BA.5, I'm sure. Probably best protection against BA.5. We just don't know how long it will last. That's another question yet to be seen. The other question I got a lot was, are we going to get another variant? Well, this gives me pause. If you look at, most of the world is now pretty vaccinated, except for Africa. Still only 15% of Africa. I will point out that there is one country that's doing fantastically well in Africa, that's Botswana. We collaborated with the Botswana government to start a medical school there, and can't wait for President Masisi to come visit us soon, hopefully in the fall. The other thing was a real good question was which vaccine did provide the best protection as we look back. So it's kind of interesting. There, if you look at the black line, that's unvaccinated people, so they were clearly at high risk during the Delta and Omicron surges. But the J&J vaccine was the least protective, although still much, much better than unvaccinated. But it actually ended up being better during the Omicron wave. And a lot of speculation, the reason for that may be that the J&J vaccine might not have been as effective initially, but it provided longer lasting immunity. So those people who got the J&J vaccine might have had longer lasting protection when Omicron came around. And then one other question I got, just in general, if the symptoms changed. So there have been a lot of studies on this. With Omicron 5, it's mostly a milder disease, less involvement with taste and smell, shorter incubation time. Used to be 5-day incubation, now it's about 3 days. There's also a paper recently that showed that if you do a lot of physical activity, you're less likely to have a severe outcome. And, so it's really interesting, as you know, both Moderna and Pfizer now have been approved for the bivalent vaccines. So we'll be seeing what happens with those. I haven't mentioned monkeypox in a few weeks because I didn't really want to. But just to catch up, this is not the first monkeypox outbreak we've had. In 2003, there were 47 cases of monkeypox that were confirmed in the Midwest. And it's really interesting. It was from pet prairie dogs. So what happened was, a bunch of animals, small mammals, were imported from Ghana, mostly different kinds of rodents, into Texas. Texas then sent these infected rodents to Illinois, where they were housed with a bunch of prairie dogs. And then these prairie dogs were sold as pets throughout the Midwest. And all the cases were associated with exposure to the prairie dog. In that case, there was no evidence of man-to-man or person-to-person transmission, unlike this outbreak. So in this outbreak, we don't have 47 cases, we have 53,000 cases, not in the United States, but worldwide. And then of those 53,000, the vast majority are in countries that have not been used to having these outbreaks. So there's been about 500 to 600 cases in the usual parts of Africa that see monkeypox, with 52,000 cases worldwide. The largest group, obviously, is in the United States and Europe. In the United States, you can see the states that are most impacted: Florida, Texas, New York, California, and Illinois. And the good news about monkeypox, it's coming down. So I don't think this is going to be a long-lasting problem. It should go away hopefully soon. And these have been documented to be person-to-person contact. So mostly, again, in men who have sex with men. Finally, I want to end today with some shout-outs. First of all, Dr. Michael Kauth, who's a professor in the Menninger Department of Psychiatry and Behavioral Sciences, was just appointed the executive director of the LGBTQ health program in the Veterans Administration at the national level. He's an expert in LGBT health disparities, and so congratulations to him. Glad he's there in the national level. Also wanted to give a giant shout out to Pamela Fitzsimmons Howard, who gave me a gift subscription to my favorite Dimmitt County newspaper, the Carrizo Springs Haviland. And this is great. You can see it has my name on it. I am now a full subscriber. And we might just have to have a section on in the news, because there's so much really great stuff going on in Dimmitt County. And just for example, the South Texas Rural Health Service has opened their new location next to the HEB on 9th Street. So very excited about that. So for those of you looking for that service, go there. And a shout out and congratulations to Evan Castellanos and Grant Fugger for Players of the Week for the Wildcats. That's the team, the high school team there. So really excited about, and good luck for the Wildcats today. Finally, in the spirit of football, the NFL season finally begins. Once again, we can all be optimistic about our favorite team. and then in a few weeks be incredibly depressed with how badly they're performing. So that's just part of the way Texas and football works. But Lily has her team all set. She's got her team spirit, and we're excited for the football season. And Lily, oh geez, Lily's sound asleep. All right, Lily, go Texans. See you next week. Can't wait to see you. Bye-bye. Have a good weekend.
Second down and 3. With time.
He got it.
Deep. Open it.